As we start out as being minister leaders, we want to first recognize who really is the leader for us. And if we can give recognition to God and have him lead us as minister leaders, we will then be able to lead others. And your position as treasurer, it's a very big position. It is a ministry. Sometimes they think that treasury is not a ministry, but it is. And so I encourage you all to let's make sure that we are giving the decision. We're letting the Lord lead us. All right, why are you here? As the church treasurer, you are the custodian of all the church funds. Did you hear what I said? All of the church funds, you are the custodian. That means it's under your care to make sure that it is recorded correctly, it's collected correctly, it is distributed correctly, and making sure that it's being used correctly for the ministry of your church. We are on the same team. So as team together in ministry, we need to continue to work together. At my conference, I put this out on my wall in the Treasury department. We all are a piece of God's master plan, and we fit together just right. So you may have your own piece, and you are from your church locally, but together we all fit together for the gospel to continue. All right. So what is ministry? What is your duties? What are some of the duties as treasurer you have been called to do? This is a calling, all right? And when you become church treasurer, the best way I could describe it is just sharing some of the duties and the responsibilities that you have. So the tithe and offering, being accountable for that, receiving and receiving the funds. Banking, we need to make the deposit on these funds, submitting the remittance every month, reporting to the church board and to the pastor, issuing receipts, and we're going to get into some of these a little later. Accounts payable, of course, financial reporting, budgeting, and risk management. Did you know that you are also the risk manager of the church? All right. So we're going to get into that soon. We're going to get into that more. Someone said to me, why am I the risk manager of the church? Because if there's a trip or a form, you need to be involved in it, because there may be some dollars and cents. There may be a check that you may need to write. So as the treasurer, please know that's also a part of what you do. All right. So let's talk about the tithe and the offerings. All right, it's collected by the deacons, received by the treasury team, and some of you do have teams that work on different Sabbaths, and there's a schedule. Very good to know that. We recommend that at least 2 or more individuals count the funds that are collected, and then the funds, of course, are deposited by a treasury team member or a deacon, whatever the schedule you have, or you can continue that as long as you know there's somebody responsible making that deposit weekly. All right, and then of course we're going to talk about receiving the funds for the members. Now, there are several ways to receive funds. All right. The offering plate, we know that's a part of our service. Mail, funds can be received in the mail. Members can drop off their tithe and offering. And there's so many electronic ways. I just mentioned a few here. The Adventist Giving is one, Cash App is another, and several other ways we can receive funds electronically at your local level. All right, tithe envelopes. We all know these. I have a few here that I received from your conference, and I will make sure show this and we'll go through it. with tithe envelopes. Now, here's my suggestion for you. We will talk later in the next section about the auditor, and the auditor is coming to check and see what's been going on. But as you get your tithe envelopes weekly, all right, and you have a count sheet in which you can identify and have been verified, we are suggesting that you take the count sheet along with your weekly envelope, take it and bundle it. Go ahead and put a rubber band around it so you can secure that. So the next week, you will do the same thing. So when the auditors come, your tithe envelopes are already bundled and ready for them to verify, okay? Next thing is, in receiving the funds, we want to make sure that we are able to secure the funds until it's time to go to the bank. I have a suggestion here on a lockbox, a bag that you have keys for, and you can lock the funds in there and then make sure it's taken to the bank, all right? Envelopes need to be verified with initials, and then make sure they're ready to be entered into the general ledger, and total funds are counted for on count sheet. You want to make sure that the balancing is happening each Sabbath while you are doing the counting of the offering, tithe and offering, making sure it balanced then. Because once you leave the room and you're going on to services, it may be hard to remember, hey, what was that amount that came in? So we're asking you that you take the time and make sure that your daily income balance on that count sheet. So this is an example of a count sheet that I've put up there for you, showing, you will then say the date, the Sabbath, you will say your coins. Make sure we're counting those coins. Every penny makes a difference. Your currency, and of course, you will then say who counted. They will sign on it. Who verified, they will sign. And there are several different types of count sheets. This was just an example I wanted to show you, but we will make sure you get one to work with. All right. Now, the next slide, this was just an example of a money bag that you can purchase. It has two keys. Have one person, be it you, the treasurer, and then a team member have another key. Make sure that the funds are secured every week. Now, secure means also deposited. All right. Sometimes we as treasurers will think, oh, I'll take it home and by Wednesday I'll get it in the bank. No. If you have the system in place that it may be dropped at the overnight at your bank, that's fine. But we will suggest that you do what you can to get those funds out of your possession once you have counted the funds. All right. Just a little example there of a bag you can order to help you with that if you do not have that. So let's talk now about the banking. It is your responsibility to make sure that all funds are deposited to the local church bank account. Let's talk about receipting and posting to the general ledger. All funds should be receipted as soon as possible. Envelopes are open and checked to see that each amount received totals tallies with what is written on the envelope. Now stay with me now. We have our members turn in now. A member may have intended in putting $500 for tithe and say $200 for church expense. All right, that is $700. But down here, they wrote $800. Now, are we to just go ahead and sign off on the $800? No, we're to verify, once again, count, especially if it's cash in that envelope. If there's check, you can always go back, read the check. The check may have been written then for $700. Now, we suggest that you contact that member and let them know that you discovered that there was a little error, verified it, signed it, and then counted as $700. Now, what if $800 is actually in the envelope, but the member only had 5 and 2? You're gonna just make the decision of where you want to put it? No.
No.
We then ask that you contact that member. That's why we ask them for name, address, and sister Kelly, I don't see a place for phone number, but when we update our envelopes, I'm going to suggest we add phone number so that treasurer can have it right here instead of looking for the church roll to get that number. Okay, so please reach out to your members as you're verifying the thing. And I think my camera was off. I mentioned about taking that count sheet, folding it, taking a rubber band, securing it, and then you write on it the date, that Sabbath date. And then you file this away, and I'll show you an example later on how you can keep up with your tithe and offering weekly sheets. So the next thing here is all the receipts are then posted in the ledger. Posted in the ledger is important for you as treasurer. You may have a team member that's doing the weekly posting or the monthly posting. That's okay. As long as everything that's happened on this envelope, on these envelopes are posted, that's great. Now let me ask you about loose offering. Make sure that you take your loose offering and you create an envelope for it and put it in there so it can be accounted. Sometimes we don't do that and we miss the offering, the loose offering total. Those are also funds that can be used for the local church budget. All right, so keep up with all the records, and it's important because your auditors are coming. So let's talk about submitting our remittances. All right, we know that every month your remittances are due to the conference office. The 8th of the month is when your report and your funds are due. For those of you that are on ACH, that is when your funds are withdrawn from the church's account on the 10th of the month. Okay, so that was not a wrong answer, but the remittances are due on the 8th. Miss Kelly and the team there, and Miss Lou, they are waiting and ready to receive those offerings from those reports from you. It is important to meet the deadline. And let me tell you why. The conference has a deadline when they need to send 9% of what you send in to the union. And then the union has a deadline where they need to send 13.5% on to the NAD and the GC. So we're all working here with deadlines. So it's important that it starts with you so the rest of the deadlines can be made. Is that okay with you? So make sure we're sending in a remittance report. Now, the report is very important, and I was very impressed when I was gathering information from Ms. Kelly and the team. They have a link. So let's look. There is the link that your treasury team has put together that you can actually go in, fill out the remittance form online. Very, very excited to see that. When I was gathering my information, you can email the report to the Treasury at central.states.org, make that bank deposit, mail the report with a check, and then those of you who have ACH, it will be withdrawn on the 10th. Now, let me bring something to your attention that Sister Kelly mentioned that they will be doing a little bit more off. Each of your church that's listed have an identification number, and it's called an ANG4, and then there's some numbers or letters at the end that identifies your particular church. This is going to be shown on your remittance history report. Here, I put a snapshot for you to see when remittances are due. December remittances were due when? Yes, the 8th of January of 2023, they were due in your office, into the conference office. Now, if the 8th falls on a weekend, then it's due the following Monday, okay? So kind of keep that in mind as you're going through your calendars to make sure that each month your remittances are in and the time. This is this report called the Remittance History Report. Now, let me tell you what this means, and some of you have seen this already, but we're going to work on getting this to you monthly. Your church name will be listed over here, and I just pulled a section and then pasted so I can protect everybody's information now that Sister Kelly will be the one giving it to you. But for those of you where we see green, this represents the church remittances reports that came in on time. All right. Then if you see a yellow here, that means it was received late, but in the current month. And if we have a half moon shaded here, that means it came in the previous year. Now, all of you want to see green. Amen. We even have a program that we're giving our church treasurers for the work they do for getting the report in on time. Reporting. So once again, remittance reporting, I need to bring to your attention, it is okay to give your pastor a copy of your report. I know sometimes we get this back and forth. Should pastor have a copy of it? Yes. As one of the managers or our lead person at the local church, yes, we would like for our pastors to see what's happening financially with the total of the given. All right. So just like you're sending a copy to the conference office, go ahead and share a copy with your pastor, please. It is okay. Now, sometimes we get caught up in why and what the pastor will do with the report. That is not our concern as treasurers. We are here to give the report as one of our ministry leaders. Okay. So make sure you get that. And if he or she gets that. And of course, you should be giving a monthly report to your church board or your finance committee of what has come in as tithe and offering. Now you can protect the names from that report that you give to the board. That's okay to do that. All right, but make sure you're giving it. Issuing receipts. Every member should receive a tithe and offering receipt. Some some churches will do that weekly, but those are our smaller churches. Some churches will do that quarterly or yearly. But as the treasurer, can I please encourage us to give the receipts to our members? Let's talk about accounts payable. This is another area that you cover as a church treasurer. Here are some best practices. Signature limits. Second signature. If your board has voted that there should be 2 signatures on that account, make sure that you're ordering that. All right. Make sure you have a check request process in place. Receipts for documents needed for all payments. Before you write that check out, make sure you have a receipt or a backup. It's coming back to get you if you don't, because the auditors are coming. All right. Record check payments in the ledger. If you're doing if you have a computer system, once you write a check, it should be set up to post to the expense accounts. If you have a manual system going on, you will probably write that check out, but then somebody needs to post it into a system. Make sure that's happening. And this is the biggest one of all. Bank reconciliations should be done. How do you know what's in that account? How do you know the bank didn't make an error? How do you know that those deposits that you put in that night drop, how do you know it did not hit the account? Bank reconciliation is the best way to verify. Let's talk about some don'ts. Don't mind that S on the end on there, okay? Sign blank checks. That's a no, Mr. Treasurer, Mrs. Treasurer, Miss Treasurer. That is a no. You should never put your signature on a check and give it to someone. Nobody. You know what you just did? You just gave them an open checkbook to write any amount that they want. Let's not do that, okay? Don't sign your own checks. Some of you may receive a stipend from the church. Some of you, you're doing this fully as a volunteer. For those of you who do receive a stipend, never sign a check that's for you. And don't reimburse without any receipts, okay? You have to have that backup. Very important. Let's talk about financial reporting. I mentioned it earlier. You should be giving reports to the pastor on your weekly or your monthly giving that you've received, and making sure your board has financial statement. Now, if you are not going to board meeting with financial statements, that's a major concern. All right, so bringing us all together here, I took a minute, thank you, Sister Kelly, to identify the states and to identify your church, your city, and your church name. Why? Because remember now, we are all a piece of God's master plan, and we fit together just right. So we appreciate what you're doing. I know it's a lot of work. I know it is, but thank you for what you do. You are a part of the puzzle. Yes, you are a part of this. So I wanted to give each of you your own piece of the puzzle, because without it, we cannot do what needs to be done. Just some quick resources for you. W-9 forms. I don't have time to get into that, but this is something Ms. Kelly will follow back on with you. If we're writing checks from our churches, we need to be able to receive W-9s, and we should be issuing 1099 NEC forms at the end of each year. So let's get ready. Why not get ready for the auditor, okay? So one of the first things that's going to happen is you will get some communication from the office letting you know that the audit date is set for X date, and you will then receive a list of items that they will need for you to have ready for them. All right, so let's prepare for the audit. We prepare weekly by what? Our tithe and our offering. We are going to bundle them weekly. We got a suggestion earlier to put them in an envelope and then have them ready for the auditors. However you think it's best, make sure you have your envelopes, your weekly envelopes, and these then turn into monthly, and then you will store those away. I'm going to give you a suggestion on how to do that. All right, so let's be ready. Here's an example. Get you a bin. Organize yourself. You're going to put your bank statements, your board minutes, any contracts or agreements, any other documents. You may have a file cabinet at the office, at the church, that you can use for it. However you see best to get that information securely filed away, then do just that, okay? So just a little example there of what you can do. Now, when will the audit take place? You will know that. It's not a surprise. We're not going to just show up on your door and say, I'm here. No, we invite you all to, the office will make sure, Mr. Jonathan and the team there will make sure communicate with you. How do you prepare for the audit? I'm going to help you with that. And then what happens after the auditor leaves? You should get some communication from the auditor. A letter will be sent out to your church board giving the recommendations and the observations. Okay, so all of that we're going to talk through right now. So I talked about the arrangement letter. You will get a note. Now here's the checklist. Bank statements, including all savings accounts, revolving funds, CDs, any statement that you have an account for, they need to have that so they can conduct an audit. Your checkbook stubs. For those of us who are still writing checks, there's the stub part of the check that is still an item that's needed. Cancel checks. Some of you receive those back in the mail. Some of you, it's printed on your bank statement. Some of you have to request a copy of it. Whatever it takes and whatever is needed for you to get those canceled checks, please get them for us. Now, I'm going to tell you what we're looking for. We are looking to see checks that were written, who they were written to, were they voted by the board? We shouldn't see a church bus. The next Sabbath, we come to church and nobody knows about this bus but the treasurer. No, 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 no. We need to make sure you have authorization for every check you write. And then those paid invoices and receipts. Yes, we're wanting to see those things, okay? We're just verifying what you have already done. Your general ledger. Those of us that are using the software, of course, that is produced once you run your financials. Those of us that are using a manual way of accounting for it, there should be some printout or some ledger form that we can see income and expenses for the local church. Tithe envelopes. I'm not gonna go over that again. I mean, I've spent much time, but we know these are very important to have. We want to see these because we're going to verify what that member put on that envelope is exactly what was deposited into the bank and exactly what you, the treasurer, has posted on the ledger books for the church, okay? So that's why tithe envelopes are very important. And mind you, you are doing what you know you should be doing. So it's not a matter of us coming to see, did you deposit the $10? It's a matter of us coming to verify that $10 was deposited. All right, so the tithe and offering receipts, we want to see those, and the weekly contribution report. And that can be in the form of those weekly count sheets we talked about in the earlier session. And then financial statements. This is something that we see a lot of our treasurers do not produce. Please let me remind you, one of your main obligations is to provide financial reports to the church board of what's happening with the church financially. You should not be taking that burden on by yourself. No, 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 no. Please, if you need help in how to produce financial statement, there are softwares that can help. Donation accounting, Jewel software. Ms. Kelly and the team will make sure you're connected to a software that can help. Okay, so monthly remittance report. Make sure that that's happening and turn into the conference office. Board minutes. You want to have that ready for your auditor. Your auditor is looking to see what the board voted and gave you the authorization to purchase. Very important. Now, I'm going to take a minute and say this to you. I know this doesn't happen in your conference. I'm sure it was just my conference it happened in, but we had a treasurer. The board did vote to give a stipend to that treasurer because, you know, nobody can pay you guys for really what you do. And it's a $500 stipend that the board did vote for the treasurer. Well, in the audit and the auditor doing what we asked them to do, they discovered that there was $500, but it was given to the treasurer twice a month instead of once. Well, that came out from the board minutes that we did see church board voted to give X treasurer $500 monthly stipend. We were going through the checklist of the items that you needed to have ready. Have those things ready, please. Now, once that's done, you will leave the auditor to take care of it. Now, sometimes they ask for the items to be shipped to their office. They may come out, Miss Kelly and the team will guide you in which way they are working it for you. But the key thing is to be ready. All right, so let me tell you what happens after the auditors have the records. They then do what we call verification. They will do some testing of your tithe envelope. So they will pull a week or a month and run the total for this month to give the total for these tithe envelopes. That is what they will check. Now, these tithe envelope comes up to $5,000. So like I said, for that month, there should be 4 deposits that would add up of $5,000. All right. And then they will then check that against, did $5,000 actually hit the bank? So that's why your bank statements are very important. Now, once that is done, once the audit is completed, there are recommendations, they're called comments and recommendations that will come from your auditor. Here's an example of one. It says, "Dear church members, in conjunction with the review of the financial records for the Jesus is on His Way SDA Church for the period of December 31st, 2021-2022, we perform a limited review and evaluation of the internal control of the church. These comments should not be taken as criticism, but rather as tools for a better management." Did you just hear me here? This is saying, they're saying we've done a review and here is what we found. So then you will have something that says observation. So on observation number 1. So what is happening here saying observations? On December 31st, 2021, the reconciled cash balance did not agree with the total fund balance carried on the church books. The church books carried a balance of $84,000, while the reconciled cash balance said $88,000. So there was a difference of $3,000 plus. That is what you will see as an observation from the audit. The recommendation you will see says the difference of $3,000 should be entered on the church books to bring the fund balance in line with the actual cash availability. So that's an example of a finding the auditor found, and then they will give a recommendation on how to correct it. They will also share with you the entries that needs to be made for that entry. So that's just an example of one. Let me give you another example of a finding. The weekly total of tithe envelopes did not match the weekly bank deposit. Now that is one that has become very common lately. Not lately, most of the time. But treasurers, I encourage you to make sure that your weekly contributions match what you're putting in the deposit. I mean, right even down to the penny. All right, so that is just recommendations and observation you will get from your
audit report. All right. So that's the basic information that I wanted to share